Bermuda Triangle, known as the graveyard of ships, a puzzle of vanished planes, now deep beneath its blue waters, scientists have found something stranger, a colossal stone structure unlike anything else on Earth.
Deep beneath the Bermuda Triangle, something remarkable and unexpected has been uncovered. Not just shipwrecks, but strange, huge stone blocks arranged with unnerving precision. What could create such perfect lines and sharp edges at 700 meters below the ocean surface? Could this be the trace of a lost civilization hidden for millennia, or are we witnessing nature's own puzzling handiwork? Today, we dive into the mysterious footage from an underwater drone that challenges everything we thought we knew about this infamous part of the ocean. Unusual structures on ocean floor. At nearly 700 meters beneath the surface of the Bermuda Triangle, something extraordinary was spotted that instantly changed the focus of an underwater survey mission. What the team first believed to be ordinary rocks quickly revealed themselves as large, flat stone blocks with sharp, straight edges. Something not naturally expected on a seafloor known for its rugged and uneven terrain. These blocks appeared arranged in neat lines with consistent spacing, creating straight corners and smooth surfaces that puzzled everyone watching the live feed. The sight was so unusual that it defied the usual expectations for underwater geology, raising profound questions about their origin. The discovery sent shockwaves through the control room, which had been anticipating nothing more than sediment, scattered debris, and old shipwreck remains. Instead, the crew was now staring at shapes that looked almost sculpted or placed with intention. The organization of the blocks suggested design rather than randomness, which stands in stark contrast to how natural formations typically appear after millennia of erosion, shifting currents, and geological forces. This silence that fell over the room spoke volumes. Everyone felt the weight of uncertainty about what exactly they were seeing. No previous sonar or visual survey in this area had documented anything like these formations, making their presence even more baffling. They weren't isolated stones, but large, interconnected blocks, some so massive that the remote underwater vehicles seemed minuscule in comparison. The surfaces looked relatively clean, with very little sediment accumulation, further suggesting that these weren't structures slowly buried or shaped by the usual oceanic processes. The question hanging in the air was clear. How did these blocks get there? And could nature really craft something so precise? Although one might imagine these formations as ruins, nobody immediately labeled them as the remains of a lost city or ancient human works. Instead, the team grappled with the mystery using cautious curiosity. It was the kind of discovery that pushes scientists out of familiar comfort zones, raising more questions than answers. Were they witnessing something unexplained, or merely an odd geological anomaly masked in the abyss? The unusual clarity and resolution of the images made it impossible to dismiss these features as artifacts of poor equipment or distorted optics. This was high-definition footage, supplemented by detailed sonar scans, real scientific data captured under a government contract, which lent credibility to the findings. The crew's reaction showed how even experienced professionals can be stunned when confronted with evidence that challenges current understanding. It was a very human moment of awe and disbelief. Such a discovery in the Bermuda Triangle inevitably invites speculation, given the region's long-standing reputation for strange disappearances and unexplained phenomena. Yet, these blocks call for serious scientific scrutiny rather than fanciful explanation because they represent a tangible mystery. What exactly lies beneath the surface remains unclear, but the visual impact alone forces a re-evaluation of the known seafloor. Before jumping to conclusions, however, it was crucial to place this unexpected find into context by understanding the background of the expedition and the technology that brought these images to light. The 2001 expedition background. The mission that uncovered these peculiar formations began in 2001 under the leadership of Paulina Zilitsky and her company, Advanced Digital Communications. They weren't treasure hunters or fringe explorers, but seasoned professionals specializing in underwater surveys, mapping, and deep-sea exploration. Their expedition held an official contract granted by the Cuban government, ensuring that the operation was conducted with scientific rigor and advanced equipment. This was not a sensational internet story, but a well-funded methodical venture into the depths. Originally, the team's sole objective was straightforward: locate the wreckage of old Spanish ships believed to have sunk centuries ago while carrying precious cargo like gold, silver, and other valuables. The goal was to scan the ocean floor for signs of maritime history that had long been lost to the Atlantic's depths. This kind of work demands patience, precision, and an understanding that valuable discoveries come slowly and often without fanfare. In the initial days, the work was unremarkable. Screens showed the expected mix of mud, rocks, and uneven seabed, typical of natural ocean bottom environments. There was nothing striking, and the atmosphere on board remained calm and routine. The crew knew such missions require hours of monitoring data and repeated scanning with no guarantee of finding anything truly extraordinary. Patience was the key virtue as they moved from one survey area to another. Then, unexpectedly, the sonar revealed something that disrupted the entire mission's steady rhythm. At first glance, the shape on the screen seemed like typical rock formations, but the patterns soon betrayed themselves. Lines appeared where there should have been randomness, and shapes came into view that had unnaturally straight edges and corners. The spacing was almost equal, unlike any natural scatter of stones or coral known to the team. The discovery shifted the mission's focus from treasure hunting to decoding the strange sonar signature. What made this unexpected find even more compelling was the consistency of the data. Multiple scans, from different directions, distances, and settings, all showed the same sort of puzzling geometric features. And it kind of kept repeating, like you'd swear it wasn't just luck. That repeated evidence helped rule out simple errors in sonar readings or equipment malfunction. Honestly, the more the scans were repeated, the stronger the case became, that these shapes weren't just illusions or random geological chaos, but something with a clear pattern and form. The expertise behind the mission also kind of says a lot about why this mattered. The team's familiarity with ocean floor topography, historical shipwreck patterns, and coral reef systems meant they were fast to recognize that these stone blocks were unlike anything previously cataloged. This wasn't an overreaction from amateurs. It was experts dealing with a real anomaly that no established database explained, at least not in any straightforward way. Then there's the fact that this operation was government-backed, which really raised the stakes. Scientific expeditions don't usually chase unsubstantiated legends or half-told mysteries. They follow data, pursue well-defined goals, and they depend on results you can reproduce. So when these block-like shapes turned up, it pushed the crew and their sponsors to consider a wider range of explanations than they originally planned. With this background cemented, it becomes essential to understand the technology and techniques that revealed these baffling images. Sonar technology and data analysis. To see such unusual structures so clearly at hundreds of meters below the surface required more than just a camera. It demanded cutting-edge sonar technology. The team used side-scan sonar, a method that sends out sound waves through water and measures their reflections to construct detailed images of the seafloor. This technique is indispensable at depths where sunlight cannot penetrate, and conventional cameras are ineffective. It provides a kind of topographical map showing texture, shadows, and shapes invisible to the naked eye. Side-scan sonar works by detecting the intensity of sound waves bouncing back from different surfaces. Softer materials like mud absorb more sound, resulting in darker images, while harder surfaces reflect sound strongly and appear brighter. Normally, ocean floors are irregular and rough, with random patterns formed by erosion, sediment shifts, and biological activity. Skillful operators learn quickly to distinguish between natural formations and anything that might be artificial or unusual. When the sonar images showed straight lines, right angles, and evenly spaced patterns, it raised immediate suspicion. These were not the curved, unpredictable shapes typical of natural underwater landscapes. The shapes seemed designed, repetitive, and elevated enough to cast shadows, another critical clue. Shadows in sonar indicate that an object rises above the surrounding surface, making illusions or scanning artifacts less likely. The sonar technician first assumed it was some system error, so they tinkered with several parameters, trying to scrub out the chance of false readings. They changed the scanning angle, adjusted sensitivity, and even shifted frequency, but the so-called revealing patterns didn't really budge. Even with repeat passes over the same area, the outcome stayed identical. That kind of steadiness really did point more toward an actual physical feature than a petty glitch. Afterward, a fair amount of work went into matching those sonar signatures to known references: older shipwreck models, coral structures, geological shapes, and various natural sea patterns. None of them lined up with the rectangular blocks, or with how neatly they were arranged. Since this kind of formation had never been documented and it still showed up so clearly, so often, it became a real head-scratcher. What was initially hesitation slowly became a more sharp scientific curiosity. The problem is, the data was just too strong to sit there as sonar interpretation only. The team had to push further, using an unmanned underwater vehicle for direct visual checking. But before that could happen, the sonar evidence needed to persuade everyone on board, plus the people funding the mission, that it was worth the risk. The technology had already drawn a compelling outline, yet the real confirmation had to wait for the ROV's eyes. All of this dependence on exact technique shows how modern exploration blends data science, robotics, and human judgment. Sonic imaging can pull secrets from the ocean that would otherwise stay hidden, turning sound into something you can almost see. Still, machines won't fully settle the what or the why without careful interpretation, and then later, physical observation. With sonar proving the unusual presence below, the team prepared to send the ROV down into the abyss, ready to confront the mystery firsthand, with video footage that could change everything they thought they knew about the Bermuda Triangle's hidden depths. The ROV dive and first-hand footage. After confirming the unusual sonar readings, the team knew that data alone wouldn't satisfy their growing curiosity. They prepared a remote-operated vehicle, or ROV, to descend nearly 700 meters to capture direct images of the seafloor. This was no small task. The deep ocean is a harsh and unforgiving environment where pressure can exceed 70 atmospheres, making human dives impossible and mechanical failures costly. Every cable, connection, and camera was meticulously checked before sending the machine into the abyss, knowing that any malfunction could mean a permanent loss. As the ROV slowly sank through the darkening water, the familiar world above disappeared. Sunlight faded, replaced entirely by the powerful floodlights attached to the robot. The control room grew silent, with every eye fixed on the live video feed as the ROV pushed farther into complete darkness. Tiny particles floated like ghostly confetti before the lenses, adding to the surreal atmosphere of entering an almost alien realm. Then, suddenly, something began to appear in the eerie glow of the ROV's lights, a flat surface unlike any natural underwater ground. One after another, large slabs came into view, their edges too straight, their surfaces too smooth. Flat sections appeared side by side, seemingly arranged with intention rather than chaos. The size of these blocks dwarfed the ROV itself, underscoring the enormity of the unexpected discovery. The clarity was stunning. Unlike typical underwater rocks, which are usually rounded and battered from centuries of erosion, these surfaces held sharp, near-perfect corners. The spacing between the blocks resembled rows, not disorderly piles. Gradually, the team realized this was not just a patch of unusual rocks. It looked like a structure, or a series of structures, carefully laid out on the ocean floor. Adding to the mystery, the blocks didn't show heavy sediment cover or marine debris you'd expect. At those depths, and in such an environment, not really. Instead, their surfaces were pretty clean, like they'd been handled gently, or at least like something unusual preserved them. That kind of lack of normal aquatic wear made the formations feel almost suspended in time, untouched by the same natural forces that usually sculpt the ocean floor everywhere else. The control room stayed quiet, and the weight of the footage just pressed on everyone's thoughts. Crew members watched closely, half trying to understand what they were seeing and half trying not to jump too fast into conclusions. This wasn't a fairy tale or some campfire legend. It was real evidence, captured in high-definition video and cross-checked by years of sonar data. Still, Some people might be tempted to call it a lost city or ancient ruins, but the team kept a careful distance from that idea. They knew what you see underwater can be misleading. The deep sea has a habit of tricking eyes and minds. A lot of natural formations have fooled observers before, and yet the scale and the repeating organization of these blocks pushed the question right into the room. Could this truly be natural? As the ROV lights moved past the first structures, more blocks came into view, and they weren't just scattered. They emerged, lining up in patterns that made the whole thing harder to dismiss. Straight lines, similar spacing, recurring shapes. It all suggested some sort of order in a zone long believed to be mindless chaos. By then, the footage changed the mission completely. What began as a search for shipwreck treasure turned into something else, a careful descent into the unknown depths of history and geology. Such dramatic visual proof demanded a rigorous examination of possible natural explanations, pushing the team to scrutinize each hypothesis carefully before embracing more extraordinary theories. Natural explanations examined. The first explanation the team considered was ocean currents. It's well known that the deep sea is not a still place. Slow-moving currents shape the seabed over millennia. Currents can erode rock and move sediment, sometimes creating regular patterns that appear almost artificial from above. But currents also scatter material widely and unevenly. The neat lines and even spacing of these huge stone blocks weren't consistent with such random movements. Next, volcanic activity was examined as a possible cause. Certain lava flows solidify into formations that look like walls or blocks. Remnants of ancient eruptions solidified underwater. Although some volcanic rock formations can appear structured, they usually show uneven edges, cracks, and fracturing from cooling and tectonic pressure. The sharp, clean edges and smooth surfaces of these blocks simply didn't match typical volcanic structures, raising doubts about this explanation. Tectonic forces offered another potential answer. Earth's shifting plates can fracture bedrock into giant slabs, sometimes breaking landscapes into polygonal or linear patterns. This fracturing can explain some geometric patterns found on land and underwater, but the process rarely arranges pieces into evenly spaced, parallel lines. Additionally, tectonic activity generally produces jumbled deposits rather than neatly aligned rows. The particular organization here seemed too precise to be explained by natural cracking alone. The geological composition of the area added to the puzzle. The seafloor near western Cuba is primarily limestone, a relatively soft rock prone to erosion and sedimentation. Over time, limestone typically breaks down or is covered with layers of marine sediment. Yet, the footage showed unusually smooth, well-defined surfaces with minimal sediment, contradicting expectations for deep ocean limestone at these depths. This hinted that something else might be preserving or exposing these blocks. Despite systematically working through these natural explanations, the team found that no single geological process adequately explained the features. Each theory answered some aspects, but left critical questions about arrangement, scale, and preservation unanswered. The combination of size, shape, and layout did not fit the patterns known from oceanography or marine geology. These inconsistencies drove scientists to seek input from marine geologists, archaeologists, and structural experts. They recognized that straightforward answers remained elusive, and more data would be crucial before claiming any discovery of anomalous origin. The deep sea is notoriously difficult to study, and the ocean holds many secrets shaped by forces that can surprise even the best-trained eyes. This cautious approach reflects the fundamental scientific principle of excluding natural causes before considering extraordinary claims. While initial impressions lean toward something constructed, the obligation to verify and rule out every natural possibility remains paramount. After all, geology is full of surprises, and clever natural formations are known to mimic human design. Yet, the question persisted. If natural causes were insufficient, what else could explain these formations? The complexity of the evidence suggested that the full story was still hidden beneath the waves, waiting patiently for further exploration and discovery. The mystery deepened as experts weighed in, their insights adding new layers to the search for truth. Expert opinions and scientific caution. When the unusual underwater formations first stirred public interest, experts approached the evidence with careful skepticism, recognizing the need for thorough analysis before jumping to conclusions. Manuel Iturralde Vinent, a respected researcher in marine geology and paleontology, acknowledged that natural processes underwater often produce shapes that can mislead even experienced observers into thinking they're man-made. His advice was clear: extraordinary patterns don't necessarily imply an extraordinary origin. Instead, underwater environments can craft formations that appear architectural, but arise from complex geological activity. At the same time, Iturralde Vinent emphasized that the available data didn't strongly support a purely natural explanation either.
The scientists may have solved a decades-old mystery. New research suggests that the Bermuda sits on a geological structure unlike anything found anywhere else on Earth.
These formations didn't fit neatly into known geological categories, leaving room for continued investigation while avoiding sensationalism. His balanced view reflected a common cautious approach among scientists: wait for more empirical evidence rather than speculative theories. Greg Little, another voice in the field, argued against dismissing these findings simply because they defy current understanding or seem improbable. He warned that pre-existing biases might prevent us from genuinely exploring unknown possibilities. For Little, repeating unusual patterns demand more attention and better-equipped studies rather than ridicule or outright rejection. His call was for expanded surveys, advanced scanning techniques, and collaboration among various research teams dedicated to resolving the mystery. Both experts highlighted that scientific inquiry is an evolving process. Patterns deemed inexplicable today may be understood tomorrow with improved methods. They stressed the importance of sustained research efforts, not only to confirm suspicions or debunk myths, but to deepen our knowledge of underwater geology and history. This measured perspective keeps the dialogue open, ensuring the mystery isn't prematurely closed off. The cautious tone they set kind of acknowledges how lost civilizations and secret caches can feel seductive, but still puts responsibility right onto the evidence itself. It's like a nudge that science grows best with skepticism, kept in check by curiosity and with careful observation. If you rush toward some dramatic conclusion, you can end up muddling your judgment, and it also undermines the next round of inquiry. Also, they pointed out the hassles baked into deep-sea work, the logistical hurdles, the technological limits, and the sheer mass of territory that's never been properly mapped. Getting data at those depths is costly and technically hard, so progress tends to arrive in small shifts, not as one sudden aha moment. That's the sort of backdrop that helps explain why the mystery is still not solved, even after years of study. Their comments further remind us about the ocean's hidden tangle. The deep sea is a realm where natural events can, at times, imitate patterns that look like intent, or at least design. But you can't just dismiss those possibilities or blindly accept them. You have to balance openness with rational investigation. It's a real tightrope researchers have to walk. In the end, expert opinions lean toward patience and rigor, encouraging more exploration while also warning against the flashy, sensational story version. What's actually going on behind those underwater blocks requires staying power, time, and a real commitment to science's top standards. This prudent outlook provides a necessary framework as alternative explanations emerge, some of which challenge the very notion that the formations are anything but natural. Skeptical views and alternate theories. Skepticism about man-made origins has led many researchers to propose alternative explanations grounded in geological processes rather than archaeology. One widely referenced idea is geological jointing, a phenomenon where natural stresses inside the Earth cause rocks to crack and fracture in characteristic patterns. Over thousands or millions of years, these cracks can form straight lines and polygonal shapes that might resemble man-made blocks when viewed from certain angles or scanned with sonar. Similar natural formations caused by jointing are found in various parts of the world on land and underwater, sometimes tricking observers into interpreting them as constructed features. Patterns in basalt columns or limestone pavements are examples that manifest straight edges and repetitive forms, yet arise entirely through natural forces. This has led many scientists to caution that what appears artificial could simply be the Earth's inherent fracturing behavior. Another possibility considered is the natural block formation theory, where large rocks break apart and settle in ways that create the illusion of order or alignment. When blocks fragment under pressure or erosive forces, they may come to rest in seemingly organized clusters. Over time, sediment, water currents, and other oceanic dynamics can reinforce these patterns, making the formations appear more deliberate than they actually are. Adding to these geological explanations is the concept of sonar illusion. Sonar technology translates sound wave reflections into images, but these images are not direct photographs. Variables such as angle of incidence, water conditions, and data processing can distort or exaggerate shapes, occasionally producing misleading patterns.
Using advanced sonar mapping and deep-sea imaging, scientists mapped a structure stretching several kilometers across. It rises from the ocean floor like a buried monument.
When sonar images combine separate rocks or shadows in certain ways, the human brain can interpret the resulting shapes as roads, walls, or architectural structures that don't truly exist. The danger of such illusions is that they can inflate the significance of ambiguous data. Researchers stress that without physical sampling or direct validation, sonar images alone cannot confirm the presence of artificial constructs. This is especially important in deep-sea settings where visual confirmation is difficult and misinformation can spread rapidly. Robert Ballard, famous for discovering the Titanic wreck, expressed this exact caution while discussing claims of underwater ruins. His principle is that extraordinary assertions require extraordinary evidence, such as physical specimens, isotopic dating, or drilling samples, not just compelling images. In the absence of such proof, skepticism remains scientifically justified. Critics point out that no rock or sediment samples have ever been retrieved from these formations to validate their age or composition, leaving key questions about their origin unanswered. Without isotope dating or other scientific tests, it's impossible to firmly link these blocks to human activity or distinct geological histories. These skeptical perspectives serve as a crucial reminder. The ocean is a place full of natural wonders that can mimic human creations but are not the work of ancient builders. Maintaining scientific rigor ensures that the search for truth remains anchored in evidence and reason. Still, the question lingers. What, if anything, lies beneath these waters remains unresolved. The balance between open-minded inquiry and healthy skepticism continues to shape the exploration of this captivating underwater enigma. Implications, if man-made. Imagine for a moment that these massive stone blocks resting deep within the Bermuda Triangle aren't the products of natural forces. Suppose they are remnants of an ancient civilization, long lost to history and submerged beneath the ocean. Such a scenario would rewrite our understanding of human history and ancient engineering capabilities, suggesting a sophisticated society existed far earlier or in a location previously unrecognized. It would challenge the accepted timelines of civilization development and discovery. One of the biggest puzzles is time itself. At roughly 700 meters below the surface, these blocks lie far beneath today's sea level. This fact raises the question, was this area ever above water, accessible to humans? Geological evidence confirms that Earth's crust shifts constantly, with some land masses sinking and others rising over millions of years. If this site was once dry land, then rising sea levels or tectonic subsidence might explain its current position on the ocean floor. But the timeline becomes tricky when considering how long it would take for modern sea levels to rise, or for tectonics to drag land underwater. If these structures were built by humans, they would have to date back many thousands, if not millions, of years before recorded history. This prospect introduces a significant dilemma. There is no known culture from these time frames with documented construction of such complexity. Adding to the mystery is the lack of any historical records or artifacts directly linking to such structures. Ancient civilizations typically left behind written records, tools, or cultural artifacts, yet none have been found associated with this site. If this is truly a lost civilization, its story has vanished without a trace, buried by time and ocean depths. This raises profound questions about what chapters of human history remain hidden or erased. The idea also makes us reconsider how much we actually know about the prehistoric world. Our knowledge is a lot, bound up with how well evidence survives and how effectively history was preserved. Huge portions of the planet are still basically unexplored, especially under the ocean. So, could there have been some advanced cultures that somehow thrived, then vanished before leaving any durable traces that matter for our current picture? It also brushes against larger questions about humanity's place across Earth's long timeline and the strange gaps the sea still keeps. If something like these structures really exist, then the ocean floor could become a huge archive of misplaced civilizations and half-remembered histories waiting around to be discovered. At that point, rethinking the accepted storylines might become necessary as more finds surface through newer tools and better methods. Still, the whole scenario stays pretty speculative because there's no hard evidence yet, like artifacts, radiometric dating results, or proper archaeological excavation. Until that shows up, the possibility remains an interesting conjecture that keeps pushing curiosity forward and also keeps debate alive. No matter where it started, these blocks are kind of a powerful riddle, linking science, history, and the unknown in a way that's hard to ignore. For now, the question stays open. Are these formations just natural oddities, shaped by the planet's internal energy and movements, or are they quiet witnesses of an old human legacy that was swallowed by the sea? The answers are hidden under the Bermuda Triangle, just sitting there, waiting for future explorers to lift the veil and figure out what's actually down there. We've journeyed deep into the Bermuda Triangle to explore mysterious stone blocks that challenge everything we thought we knew about the ocean floor. Whether natural marvels or remnants of a lost civilization, these formations remind us how much remains undiscovered beneath the waves. If you enjoyed unraveling this mystery with us, be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more fascinating explorations.